To the extent that we're willing to be wrong and get triggered by others, we're also allowing the space for deep, intimate, and meaningful relationships. You see, it's not about not having conflict and not feeling negative emotions. It's what it is we do, right, after we tear, and if we're able to repair. So through the conflict, through the argument, are we able to connect on a deeper level? That's the question. Or do we actually hold resentment for each other and just repeat the patterns? Because if we are repeating the same pattern and we don't know how to grow through the pattern, chances are we are holding on to resentment and we are not aware of it. So in order to actually grow through our patterns, our repetitive patterns within our relationships, we do not need the other to work with us on that. We just need to decide for ourselves that we are willing to grow through any conflict, any argument, anything that actually creates a trigger within me. I am willing to grow through and from it. If I make that decision to grow through and from any trigger, that means I am choosing the growth mindset over the survival mindset. You see, the survival mindset gets stuck in loops of reactivity. And the more we are stuck there, we're actually stuck with others together. The moment just one person decides to grow through this repetitive loop of reactivity, the dynamics shift. Because in order to create the, repeat the trauma, we're supposed to be in the trauma or drama triangle, being either victim, villain, or savior. The moment we decide to grow through and from it, we actually move from the trauma triangle, and we go to the thrive. We shift dynamics, we shift what we have been doing until now. So many times the reasons why people do not choose to grow is because they don't know how to do it. What does growth mean? How does growth look like? And can I do it alone? Because if I knew I could and I have the tools, then I would do it. And the illusion is that we think that we always need others to do it with. First, we learn how to do it on our own, right? Or for some of us that have done it with others, that's fine. But if we don't have others to grow with, we need to decide to do it on our own. And once we do that, then we find that more and more people are willing to play the game with us, the game of awareness, of consciousness, of awakening, of growth, emotional growth, of emotional maturity. But we need to be able to do it on our own first. So the question is, am I willing to get triggered? And when I get triggered, what is it I do with this? So the game of growth, because survival is just not wanting to get triggered, is not wanting to feel negative emotions. And when we do feel negative emotions, we want to change the outer world, control it, fix it, make it wrong, and explain to the outer world why they need to change. This is when we are resisting inner growth. And we're trying to force and control and manipulate the outer world because we haven't understood the power we have inside and how the inner world is just projected outwardly. And this is actually very forceful, very tiring, and very energy consuming. However, if we are willing to grow, then we are willing to actually feel through the trigger, right? So the growth mindset looks like this. We allow to get triggered. And instead of buying into the narrative that the mind will create, persuading us that the outer world is this way because of that and the other, and there's this whole story behind it, I understand that if this is not something that's creating a negative emotion and feeling, I want to call my focus back in my body and feel it on the body level by being present with it. If I'm not able to pull my energy back inwards while having the narrative, what I am doing basically is I am projecting this negative narrative onto somebody, making them the villain of my story. So they're becoming the villain of my story and I'm becoming the victim. Meanwhile, I'm expecting them to actually shift into the savior to maybe change my narrative. So I'm relying on my outer world. This is what creates resentment, actually, when I'm waiting and expecting and anticipating and having the expectations for others to become something they're not. And they're not supposed to. Because if they did, I would never take that chance of actually going inwards and accessing my inner world and waking up to my infinite potential of what we really are. We always have been love. We just have forgotten. Okay, so back to the trigger, the growth mindset. A person that's in the growth mindset and is choosing growth over everything else will allow to get triggered, bring in the energy and the focus on the body level again and again and again. Because the more we focus on the body, the more we are willing to be present with what's feeling unsafe and painful. And the more present we are with ourselves when we are feeling unsafe and in pain, this is unconditional love. Until now, it has been very conditional, the relationship we had with ourselves. Why? Because the moment we are in pain or we are stressed or angry, what do? We distract ourselves. We actually focus on the outer world. We leave our body. We neglect that part that needs our focus, our energy, and our love. We're not even aware we're needing us. We're needing our focus. We're needing our presence. We think we're actually persuaded that we need to fix the other person, change the other person, or remove the other person. And it's never about the other person to begin with. So the more reluctant we are to come inwards the moment we get triggered, the more we are neglecting ourselves. So to the extent that we are willing to make the other person the problem, we're also neglecting ourselves. So the more it's your fault, the more I'm neglecting me. The more you're the bad person, the more I need to fix you, the more I'm neglecting me, the less I'm loving me. And I'm making you wrong and I'm making you my center of my focus because that way I have a good excuse to avoid me. Because if you're not the problem, then who is? And if the problem's not outside of me, on my outer world, then I have to be looking where the problem is and where the solution is. Because if the problem is not on my outer world, the solution is not there either. And now I need to start redirecting my focus elsewhere. But because I don't want, right? Because the ego is afraid of the death. Because the death of the ego means to grow, means the growth mindset. The death of the ego means to actually let go of attachment, and it's as intense as, being afraid of death. That's how intense it is. So in order to avoid all that discomfort, it is easier to just make somebody else the problem and therefore the solution, and distract ourselves this way in a very sinister way, because we have actually made ourselves believe this lie. And all this just because we're afraid to feel. You see, everything that we are afraid of is because we're afraid of a certain negative feeling. But to the extent that we're willing to feel the negative feeling, we're also available for its opposite, positive. So for example, if I don't want to get rejected ever, how accepted am I by me and others? Really, really? Am I really accepting? Well, to be honest, if I'm not willing to get rejected, that means I'm not really accepting myself at all. And if I'm not accepting myself, chances are, not chances, but it's certain that nobody else is accepting me either. Because people mirror back to us the relationship we have with ourselves. They cannot mirror to us anything else. And if something is extremely outwardly negative or positive, then chances are we have created that within ourselves somewhere. And if we are more interested to grow, we will ask that beautiful question: where is this that I'm experiencing with this person Where is it that I'm doing it within myself? And when? Where and when? So if somebody's neglecting me or aggressive towards me, where is it that I'm doing within myself? Where is it? When and where do I do it? If somebody's annoying me and they're loud, when do I scream and I don't want to listen to me? So where do I muffle my voice? You see, to be able to decode the mirror, I need to be able to actually see the outer world as the exact mirror. When do I do it? Because maybe I do the same thing elsewhere, the same thing that bothers me, I do it somewhere, or I do it the exact opposite. Breathe in. And breathe out. So in order to grow through triggers, that means we're also willing to see the outer world as our reflection, as a mirror. And the mirror is not always the same. Like, oh, you know what, you're aggressive, I'm not aggressive. No, but I'm defensive. You see, it could be opposite, but the opposites, two opposites are the same. So if I'm defensive, that means I have an inner violent side that I'm trying to suppress and control. And the more I try to control that and I make it wrong to be angry, the more my outer world will bring and magnetize towards me aggressive people that are loud and violent, right? Now, I'm not saying to not remove yourself from any situation that is dangerous, but I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about how we can use our outer world to reflect more deeply within ourselves and create that deep intimacy that we're all wanting to experience in this life with ourselves and others. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.